Welcome. Hello. It's time for Block Talk. We are on Bitcoin block 418537. It's getting pretty damn close to this halving, like every day is, an extra almost 100 blocks, Soon my tagline of see you in the next 1,000 blocks will be see you in the next halving. Very cool stuff. But let's just talk about our awesome sponsor here for a second, Quadriga CX, the premier Bitcoin exchange in Canada. They have several different markets, including Bitcoin USD, Bitcoin Canadian, and also Ethereum BTC and Ethereum Canadian. So yeah, I like trading most in Canadian because I like my numbers to be a lot bigger. Bitcoin just feels more valuable with those bigger Canadian dollars, even though it's not really happy for me. Damn Canadian dollars. Anyways, if you guys got any questions during the show, drop it down in the chat box. I monitor it closely, and without further ado, let's start introducing our panel members. Well, first of all, hi, I'm Alex. Excuse me, I'm in a coffee shop here, so it might be a little background noise. I'll mute when I can. First off, we have joining us from Das Deutschland, Theo Goodman.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Thanks for watching, and I hope we can get some good discussion going today.
Me as well. I predict it will be a good show on prediction markets. Next up, we have Jackfruit from Jackfruit's Twitter feed. Welcome, Jack.
Hey, thanks. Looking forward to the show, and I do predict a good show too as well.
Awesome. Sounds like the market has definitely swayed in one direction. And finally, the guest of honor, we have Tony Sockage. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me. It's awesome to be on, and I can't wait to talk about prediction markets and whatever else you want to discuss. Obviously, Augur is the center of what I'm doing, but I'm more than happy to talk about whatever else is out there. So I'm very, very honored to be here.
Perfect. Well, I guess the first question is, we heard that the market or Augur is going to be launching around Christmas time, and now here we are in end of June, and now we're hearing it's probably going to be later on in the end of the year. So could you guys give us an update of what happened since Christmas time?
Well, we never had the official full release date as Christmas. We had a projected beta release date of Christmas, and we actually ended up putting out our beta about 3 months ago, maybe 4 months ago. So our beta has been out for a while. It was, I don't want to say for sure, but I think we put it out in February, if I remember correctly. So we never had a date of Christmas for our full launch, just to be completely specific there. And even that was just a targeted estimate. And so what we're doing is we've been very careful not to really announce any full dates. And it's especially because of the beta, we're being more careful to not announce any specific dates. We're aiming for fall. We would like to have it out by the presidential election, the full release, so everyone can use it with crypto. But one of those things with what just happened with the DAO, we want to make sure that our security audits are as thorough as possible, and we were already planning that before that. July was already the beginning of, well, and I shouldn't say the beginning, but really the beginning of intensive security audits that are going to be going out throughout the platform, and they're only getting more intensive with what happened with the DAO. We want to make sure that nothing like that happens with Augur, and we've been really careful since the beginning to, and not only just the platform itself, but in ways like the crowdfund funds that we had. We wanted to make sure to hedge so we wouldn't have issues. And in some ways it was great and smart that we did it. In some ways it was terrible because we didn't know that Ether would blow up the way it did in value, but in the same token we wanted to be safe with people that invested in our project. So it's more for us being cautious and making sure that anyone who invested is properly updated and also knows what's going on and everything is safe. And for anyone that really wants updates, we're not going to announce a full release date probably until it's very close to happening, just because it's a tech project. Things get delayed. Look at the issues Ethereum had with all their delays, and we learned a lot from them, so that probably will not be something where you'll hear like a date from us until it's very close. But what I will say is if you want to find an update on it, there's Augur project on GitHub, and there's also a sticky thread on rAugur, the Augur subreddit. And basically it's the top thread on the page, I believe, and it's all updates. Joey Krug, one of the co-founders and the lead designer, or lead developer, updates that periodically to say, okay, here's how many hours projected are left in time finish this part of it, the front end, the back end, different parts are tracked like that. So I always like to say that you probably won't hear a date from us until it's very close, and the reasoning for that is because things can and do come up. And one of the things that came up was the DAO. That is one of those things where we were already planning very thorough, but now it's even more, because if something can happen like that, we're lucky in one way that there will be a lot of precautions that won't let that happen with Augur, because it's a completely different idea, it's a different mechanism, it's different everything. But it's important for us to communicate that, because there's not a day. It seems like every day there's a question: when's Augur coming out? When's Augur coming out? And I have to just keep saying, you're not going to get a date from us because we don't have a date, and we would rather not say. We would rather say, here's what we're estimating a time period we'd like it to be out in, but we're not going to give a final date because things can and do come up, and that was the proof. The fact that we had to delay the beta from Christmas to a month or two later is proof of that. So things can and do get delayed. We're just trying to be as upfront and honest about everything that needs to be done, and we're keeping the community updated as much as possible on that.
Well, yes, that's one thing I'm definitely impressed with is Joey Krug has given very definite numbers of development hours left to go, and normally you kind of hear a rough date or launch date or anything, but yeah, he's actually gone a little bit in a different direction by giving definitive numbers. Yeah, I think that's one thing that came up a lot with the DAO now is the issues that are possible with Solidarity code. Apparently, there's a lot of intricacies that almost no one knows about. So, and for all the ICO buyers that are out there, realize that the longer you wait, is usually the more valuable it's going to be. So, be patient. We got another guest jumping in here too from the Whale Club, BTC Vix. Welcome.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Oh, good. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, no problem.
And I guess while you're here, do you maybe have a question for Tony?
Yeah, and actually, Theo and I were kind of talking about this on the sports betting channel. It's kind of like what we're trying to figure out is what extreme advantage Augur has over some of the centralized sports books right now. We hear a lot of it has to do with trust and stuff, but if we can't get to a functionality level of what these books have, I think that value of trust actually fades quite quickly.
Absolutely, and I'm going to answer that, but I wanted to roll back one quick second about the Solidity comment too. I'm going to handle both. The thing I would say about that is, from what I understand, actually, Augur was made using Serpent, which is the Python version for Ethereum, and not Solidity. I would always say ask Joey for the full details on that, or for the developers out there, I'm not one, so I could be a little bit wrong on that. But as far as I know, that's something that we use from the beginning. Now, on to the more relevant question that was directly asked on the sportsbook question. Is an interesting thing, because it's one of those things where what we're building and what we're hoping, this is kind of what our plan is where all those features and functions aren't necessarily going to be something that Augur launches with. But what we're trying to do is attract for-profit ventures to build on top of Augur, right? So we're hoping that they will be the ones that can kind of compete with the centralized sports books on that level. There's also the interesting fact that since the beginning, since it's an open source project and we're technically a nonprofit, we're not looking at sports books as a competitor, honestly. Ours is more of a back end, and that's one of those things where when we're doing a competitive analysis, sports books aren't even in our questions, because for one thing, there's jurisdictional issues. There's, will it work? Yes, you can do that here. You can't here. There's all those kind of things, and we're lucky enough, and I know there's at least one in process. I can't say too much about it. For profits that are going to be built on it, so that they can utilize local regulations, make sure that they're playing by the rules of each area or region, and they're going to be the ones, I believe, that will be more competitive with the sports books. I will say this: my background comes more from the blockchain Ethereum side than the prediction market side, so it's been interesting on my end for the past year and a half. It was like a crash course in prediction markets. I was always someone who was really fascinated by Bayesian probability and that kind of theory, so it was interesting to me, but I didn't know a ton about it. So it's one of those things where I haven't personally done a deep enough competitive analysis to say, okay, this is what, to answer, in regards to your question, this is what they offer versus this is what we're going to offer. What I do know is that if there's any features or functions that you like or that you think would be useful, and not just you, but anyone in the community, anyone listening to this, check out our beta. It's up at app.augur.net. And you can check that out, and please submit us feedback. Say, we like this feature. There's things that are still being implemented every day, and maybe there's something there that will really help. And in regards to the I think you asked something about security, or what are the benefits to it. And this isn't necessarily towards specifically sports books. I would rather just say to prediction markets in general. One is the global user base. There's never really been one that's been global before, at least not that has reached any kind of scale. And we're lucky enough to have an advisor and a great relationship with Ron Bernstein from Intrade, which was pretty much the most successful sports book, I think, in America ever. That I know, not sports book, but prediction market, rather, in America. So it's really good to have that and be able to say, okay, here's what they did right, and here's what we can learn. And there's so much good to learn from them. And the wisdom and great advice that just alone that Ron and their team has brought has been great. So there is that factor, and there's also the factor of the fact that funds are stored on the blockchain in a smart contract. They're not stored with a human or by a company that could easily fold or could easily run off if it's a scam. There's a lot of things like that that really do protect people that are participating in markets on the platform. I'm hoping that comes close to answering your question, because it's actually a very good question and one I've never received before. So I can tell already the panel knows more than most about prediction markets, because it's one of those things where, again, a lot of times, you have any idea how many times people think what I'm doing is just predictive with big data and doing things like that, saying, okay, as soon as you explain what it is, it's either their minds are blown or they don't get it, or they make analogies to other things, and it's not always easy to explain, but it sounds like you already know a lot about it, so which is awesome. You're the exact kind of person that we love having interest in, and it seems like Augur, along with other advancements, because we're not the only ones out here right now, and I don't want to be the one to give our competitors shine, but I'm also one to say everyone, this rising interest in prediction markets, especially in the blockchain space, is pretty awesome, and you can kind of tell there's traction in the idea behind it over 5 years ago for sure, and Augur and the others have a lot to do with that, so that's really cool.
Thanks, Vix, for that question, and yeah, thank you again for our panel for joining us. I know, I only can ask so many questions, but I try and find the best for Block Talk, and thank you again. Okay, but as you said before, there was it's a back-end kind of thing that you guys are offering, so very much the same way, DAO, the smart contract, you can do it through the wallet, or you can do it through Bittrex, who is kind of offering up the same service using the same backend. So yeah, but you kind of answered my question already. If you guys are partnering with anyone, and the answer is we can't tell you. I guess we'll move on next down the line. Theo, do you have a question, I guess?
Yeah, I got a few questions, but I guess I'll just narrow it down to one. As far as the I'm with Vix. I'm trying to figure out the advantages to what we already have, as far as, everyone's calling it prediction markets, but I look at that to include sports betting or things like that. They also have things like betting on the Brexit or betting on the election or whatever. Or actually coming up is Nathan's hot dog eating contest on July 4th, so that's a really good event to take some bets on. But getting down to the question, just how are you going to prevent someone from creating a smart contract to bribe the Oracle to change the data that then pays them more reputation than they would get from putting the correct data? Do you see what I mean?
I think I do, and I think a lot of that has to do with the decentralization of the Oracle. The Oracle is, I don't know the exact number, but I believe it's over 3,000 purchasers of reputation tokens. So they're really spread off. So, and then not only that, they were anonymous. So if something like that were to happen, they would first need to be able to identify those that are participating in the event reporting system, which is, I would consider that to be a very difficult project for a sole person to do, or even an organization, because of how diverse it is. That would be the first thing. The second thing would be coordination, and you would need to assume that there are that many oracles out there that would have the incentive to want to do that. Yes, there is always a financial incentive, but after they're tracked down, how many of them are really going to want to participate in something like that? There may be a few, but I truly believe, and I think that the system's decentralized nature is what helps prevent that. I think that that's a great, that's one of the best features for it. That when we were raising money for in the crowd sale itself, one of the things that I really wanted to press was we would have and this is still true. We weren't saying this is BS. We would have rather had 1,000 people buy $1 million worth of rep than 50 people buying 5 million, because it further decentralizes it and makes each person that's reporting different and unique, and that way you have basically just a wider amount of people that are reporting, and that's really the strength of the system. So I think that the anonymous nature of all of that makes that very, very difficult to do. Now, I'm not in the technical side to know if there's any other. I'm sure there are. Joe, I've heard some of the things that Joey and Jack discuss, and they can go on for this for hours. And I would say that check out our blog too, because there's all kinds of scenarios that have been, saying, okay, this scenario could happen. Well, how would Augur react to this? What safeguards are in place? And there's a few great blog posts. And what we did is we moved the blogs over, but we kind of archived the best ones on the new blog. So a lot of those, just go to blog.augur.net and do some browsing on there, and you'll see a lot of frequently asked questions and things like that. So a lot of similar propositions of what you said of, okay, this scenario could happen. How would you, what are the planned safeguards in there? And you can go into a little more detail on that. But I think the fact that, like I mentioned before, the decentralized nature and the anonymous nature makes that very, very difficult to do. Even if you reach 5% of those reporters, that's not enough to really, force them to report on the incorrect data. And it's really the strength of the Oracle system in Augur.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Theo, for that question. You mentioned actually, Theo, Brexit, and one question I had just in the half hour before the show given to me was the beta running a Brexit prediction, and do you know what the results were of it?
I don't know. I think there was one, but here's the thing: is because it's a beta, is a lot of the markets get wiped and rewritten when there's new updates to it. And I remember in our Slack thing, I think 2 or 3 days ago, more than that actually, last week, that all the markets got wiped. So there is that issue, because I've heard a couple people say, hey, my market is not on here anymore, and I always like to say, well, it is the beta, so they're not, it isn't exactly as stable as it will be when it fully launches. So I believe there was one, but I have no idea what any of it said, and I'm pretty sure it's gone by now. I mean, if it's definitely not archived unless someone took a screenshot or recorded the data before. So I can't say that I can't really answer that question accurately.
Well, if they're mad that it got wiped, they should just look at the Dow and say, it could be worse. More things could get wiped.
Absolutely, everything in the beta is play money right now. So I mean, we're really making sure the reasoning it's getting wiped is so that when it's real crypto and real ethers up there, that this kind of stuff is protected. And that's why it's wiped.
Well, I'm not too upset because I went all in on Bernie Sanders when I first played around with it, and that's not going so well for me.
Yeah, it's cool because during the beta phase, I can play around with it. For many reasons, most being a conflict of interest, I'm not allowed to participate in markets, nor would I anyways. Just personally, it's not. I don't think it would be right because I'm representing Augur. But for that beta, it's encouraged because we want as many markets up there that are interesting to people. And what's funny is I'm a big pro wrestling fan, and somehow someone else created pro wrestling markets, so everyone assumed it was me, and I'm like, no, it really wasn't. And that made me laugh a lot because there's actually a lot of markets, and Five Dimes, other sites do WWE stuff. So, but yeah, it's one of those things where now's the actual time that I can create and participate in markets with the play money type. So, I have, and I continue to do so. It's just a matter of they do get wiped periodically, and I don't know how many times it's happened, but I know there was a very recent one Jack posted about. So.
And I guess speaking of Jack, next on our panel here, Jackfruit, do you have any questions for Tony?
I do. So Tony mentioned earlier InTrade, and that I think somebody from InTrade was advising the Augur team. And so I'm just wondering, and I know the decentralized nature of Augur is one of the benefits of having a prediction market to avoid the pitfalls of Intrade, but Intrade, as you know, was sued by U.S. authorities. So I'm just wondering, is there any kind of risk exposure that could potentially come about through the use of Augur and Rep in terms of prediction markets and doing prediction betting on sports or commodities? So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the questions we get quite a bit of, and we're in a unique position too. But the thing I would also say is the first thing is Augur does not operate, create, or resolve markets, or even participate in markets whatsoever. It doesn't process trades, doesn't hold or maintain custodianship of funds, or it really doesn't operate the platform. It's an open source project. It's a nonprofit open source project. So it puts us in a cool position there where we're able to build the platform and, like I mentioned before, have other services built on top of it. In addition to, obviously people can use the market. It would be up to each jurisdiction, each country, each state, whichever way you want to look at it, and whoever's participating in markets or creating markets in those areas to follow their local regulations. And that's really what's important on that. Because I think it's one of those things where as third parties build on top of it, there's going to be things like, okay, how many people really use Ether, right? If you want to have something that scales bigger, you're going to need fiat gateways, right? Essentially, that's where a third party can come in and they can participate in one region or one area, whereas Augur's global, right? So there's the differences from the United States to Brazil to China to obviously China is very weird with the internet as it is. So Australia, everyone has different regulations on things like this. So it really is something where you would need to see, okay, what is the local laws, what are they doing, and in something that's global like this, it's next to impossible, which is why that it's unique, that it doesn't hold funds, it doesn't participate, it doesn't operate markets, it really does none of that. And the thing I would say is there was recently a really cool response, I think, was from I don't know its title, I'm not up on that, but from the CFTC. President Lederwood, and it was on different blockchain technologies. I would recommend checking that out because I think that the CFTC, which is in America, it's a very Americanized, this is an Americanized point of view, so I apologize for those that are global, but that's the one that we get, I wouldn't say inundated, but the ones that were around the most, at least for the US-based team, which most of the team is. There's a few that are in Europe and other areas. But they said some really positive things, almost like a wait-and-see thing for blockchain tech, and it's good that Augur falls under that umbrella because it's one of those things where it's an unprecedented thing. It's a lot like Uber, where you never really know what's going to happen and what you're doing when you're doing something new. But when you want to do something new, you want to make sure that your bases are covered. We have a great legal team, and we also are just doing our best to make sure that everything is followed and that we're saying the right things and making it as transparent as possible. Also, because first and foremost, it's best for our business, and it's best that everyone knows every step we're taking and what we're doing, and we're trying our best on that front as well. So I would encourage anyone to kind of see what the CFTC has said about blockchain tech in general. I think that's very promising, in my perspective, at least.
Oh, awesome. Thank you for that answer. And Jack, thanks for the question. And actually, it kind of leads in perfectly to my question. So when I interviewed Griff Green of Slockit, he was very careful in choosing its wording. It's not saying it's our DAO, or it's not saying, we have our product or anything like that. Like, they were distancing themselves from it, saying, like, we helped create it, but we are not the curators or the owners of it. Does the Augur team have ownership, I guess, of the smart contracts you guys are deploying, or is Augur, your company, a different entity than Augur, the smart contracts?
It's an interesting question. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by it, but let me take my perspective of what my perception. Because Augur, we're a nonprofit and it's an open source project. So since it's a decentralized open source project, there really is no ownership to be had of any of that. A smart contract that would be created it essentially would be out there on the blockchain. I don't necessarily think that's. I don't know if that's the right answer that you're looking for, nor do I necessarily know the intricacies on that. So I can understand why the person from Slockit was very careful on how they answered that, because I don't necessarily know the specifics of the technical details on that. But I also, as far as I know, and that's why I want to say as far as I know, so if anyone says, you're wrong, Tony, I would say that we're being very careful not to, just to be able to produce the code and making sure that, we're following everything as a nonprofit entity and open source project. So it's not ours, it's the world.
Well, just kind of thinking, if we get a similar scenario to what happened with the DAO, and right now no one can really pursue legal action against Slockit because they were denying their ownership of it. I was curious, if somehow there's a flaw in your product or your code or anything really, how are you guys kind of protecting yourselves, or are you even trying to distance yourselves from it, or are you taking full ownership of what you guys are producing?
I see. I actually now I get what you're saying. I was thinking more on the specific smart contract part, and honestly, I don't know the answer to that question. What I would say to that is I will work on getting an answer to that, because I would need to actually speak with our legal team, speak with Jack and Joey. That's nothing that we've internally discussed, because to us, the DAO thing, it more was a period of self-reflection, going, okay, we had planned for great security, now it needs to be the best. We need to make sure all the audits are as thorough as possible. And it can't be something with the DAO where they propose great security audits after funds were already raised and this exploit could take place. We want it to happen first, happen before that. So I'm going to hold off on answering that, but I'm also going to say to everyone out there that I will get some kind of answer for everyone, because since I don't have one, I always like to say, if I don't know it, I'll work on something, and either look out for a blog post or something like that. And it may have been something that has came up that I'm not privy to. And this goes to the quality of your questions. A lot of the times, the questions I get are very basic. What is Augur? What is a prediction market? These kind of things. So you guys are asking good, deep questions, and I like to be honest and say, hey, if I don't know the answer to it, I don't know. What I will say, though, is we're doing our best so that a situation like that never comes up. That I know for a fact. And we're making sure to, cross the T's and dot the I's, and the lowercase j's even. That's how thorough we're trying to be. So it's really that kind of thing, and I can definitely speak to that, at least as all the communication I've had with our development team, and I have the most communication with Jack and Joey personally, so because I'm one of the three that's left from before the crowd sale. Myself, Jack, and Joey are the three that are still there, so I do talk to them quite periodically and get the latest updates. But sorry about that one. I do apologize, but that doesn't mean I'm trying to dodge it, and I want to let everyone know that. There may be something public said about that. I just don't know. So.
No, it's a good answer from a legal standpoint, and here on Block Talk, we do ask the tough questions. We want to see if we can get you to say something that you shouldn't or something like that.
Well, the thing is, I don't mind saying things that are controversial or things like that, but if I don't know them, I really am not going to speak on it much, and I can't speak on it much.
Well, I'll look for the blog post, and anyone watching, check out Block_talk on Twitter, and I'll definitely retweet it. I'm sure Jack and the other guys will definitely be on it too.
It might be a tweet. It might not even be a blog post. It might be just a simple tweet or a Facebook post, because it depends how lengthy it is. And it might not be right away either. It's just one of those things where now that I'm putting it on my list of things to do. Okay, we got to cover this, because if you have the question, odds are others do too, and we want to make sure that that could be answered.
Well, I have been told there's some three-letter agencies that occasionally watch the show, but let's save that for another time. And Theo looks like he has another question he's itching to ask.
Okay, yeah. Well, I was just wondering, why not just take all this energy that's going into the development and everything else and just do the whole thing on a Bitcoin sidechain?
And this is what I've been told by both Jack and Joey, is just how much easier it is to develop on Ethereum. A great quote, actually, that we get that question a lot, and there is a blog post called Why Ethereum, and it's pretty short. I'd recommend everyone Google it and read it if you can. Basically, the fact that the quote that Joey gave me was he was able to do in about 3 days on Ethereum what took him 30 days to write on Bitcoin because of the complexity of it. And that's like a layman's terms thing. Obviously everyone at Augur loves Bitcoin. It's just a matter of platforms easier to develop on, and that's really it. So if people think that Augur might be taking a while now, I think if we were building on Bitcoin, it would take significantly longer. And I would also encourage anyone that there are some that are being created on Bitcoin. I would encourage any of the developers out there to look at their code and see how far along they are. And I would take a look at that. From what I've been told, it's not very far. I'm not a developer, so I'm trusting people's words here. But tell me if I'm wrong, because I could be. But it seems that Ethereum is a much easier platform to develop on, and you can get a lot more work done quickly. So that's really the benefit.
Okay. Well, As far as I know, since it's all based on the Ethereum blockchain, then I'm not only putting my trust in the Augur code and the smart contracts and the oracles, I'm also putting my trust in the Ethereum blockchain and the hash power and everything else, because how do I know that the miners are going to mine my prediction into the smart contract and everything else and all that? How do I know that that is secure? Because if I were to do it on, well, I guess if I did it on a Bitcoin sidechain, they'd have to mine that too. But you see what I mean? Like, how do so I'm not only am I, if I'm correct, it's on the Ethereum blockchain itself, and so you guys are using that, which is right now proof of work, which later, big question mark, sometime will be proof of stake. So then I would be relying on that, and couldn't I somehow, I don't know, get with some miners and say, okay, miners, delay these predictions and make my predictions go through?
So essentially, I think what the question boils down to is, why would you trust Ethereum over Bitcoin, right? That's like, it seems like to be the core. There was a lot of sub questions there, and I think that's just a matter of if you do or if you don't. It was our choice just to get the project out as quickly as possible. I think that the whole proof of stake, proof of work thing, that definitely is a big question mark, and I know as an organization, this is not speaking for myself, that we've given, I think it was $20,000 a grant for the development and proof of stake, because I think it's a good thing to work toward. Now, I do understand also the criticism and the okay, should I trust this or should I not? I unfortunately I don't have a great answer for that, other than saying, hey, this was our choice to develop on it, and this is kind of what we're doing. I would say you'd have to probably have the same level of trust with a Bitcoin sidechain. So there is really, it's a either or. It's interesting because this is another first for this type of question, and it's one of those where we don't necessarily we don't want to say, okay, this is the right way, because there is no right way. It's just kind of the way that worked for us when we were kind of developing it, and that was the decision for Ethereum. So it really came down to that. And what you're saying is, why should you trust it? I would say the best thing I could tell you is to review the code, view this team and what we're working on, and follow the updates and see if you do. We're also, I've always said from the beginning, may the best prediction market win. That's definitely what I believe. I believe the market will have the best one win, and if there's major issues in Augur or any of the others, they will come to light, and either they'll be a speed bump in the road, or they will cause trust to diminish in one of them, and not just us. It could be one of the others that are out there, and from there it'll go forward. I'm very confident in Jack and Joey, I'll say that much. Joey's the smartest person I think I've ever met in my life, and they're very hardworking and they're very thorough and honest, and that means a lot to me. Now, does that necessarily mean that they're completely right in all their decision making? I don't know. That's a little above my layer of complexity. So all I say is that I know from everything that I've done with experience and experiencing and knowing them, that I have trust in their decisions to choose Ethereum. And I would hope that other people would hear kind of our messaging, what they've said, what they've written, how they've interacted, and how their decisions were, and seen our point of view. I always say, if someone has a great level of criticism toward what we're doing, and they don't, they choose to be skeptical. Skepticism is good. We like that. What bothers me sometimes, though, is when it gets a little overboard, because there might be one person that I think was a little overboard with it. But like, your level of questioning is perfect, and I like it, because there is issues, I think, with every one of these, regardless of what blockchain they're built on. And the thing is, I don't have an answer for that, other than saying, let's see what works and what doesn't.
Awesome. Great question and great answer. And that kind of like the whole Ethereum question too, it sounds like there's a bit more of a support network in terms of trying to develop everything. But there is another prediction market on Bitcoin, Bitcoin Hive Mind, which if you check out on the channel down below here, I have doing an interview with Paul Stork, and you'll see the interview with him. But I also talked to Vlad Zamfir, who did mention the development grant that Augur project put towards proof of stake. So again, another great interview. No, enough self-promotion. Let's get kind of to the topic that's maybe on everyone's mind, which is the fork, the hard fork. So right now, like the DAO is kind of putting in this this question to the miners is like, are these guys just random contractors similar to like what the Bitcoin network is, or are they are still kind of in line with the developers in terms of building the platform and making everything to its final stage? What, I guess, Tony, is your opinion on like the hard fork question that's going on right now, and how it might affect Augur in the future?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I'll say this: I don't think it will affect Augur in the future very much. That I'll say on the Augur front. So, and everything else I'm going to say is my personal opinion, and I always like to mention that it's not Augur's. So I should even take off my hat, but my hair looks terrible. I got hat hair. So, but what I would say is, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I see both sides, but then I also think, okay, what you're doing is it's the too big to fail thing. Like, is that the case? And I get both sides. I really do. I try to see both sides of it. The one thing that really that I'm thinking more and more is the case is that 2 weeks isn't enough time for this proposal. So that I'm bothered by. And I know that there are some time issues with at least there were. The past 4 or 5 days I've been a little out of commission, so I haven't really followed the latest updates. But I know there were issues with how long the one wallet could hold the funds that were siphoned from the DAO. I don't know if it's still the 27 days. I think it was, but so I know that there was an issue with that. So I guess my official response is I'm 50-50 on it, but I'm leaning toward not being a fan of it. That doesn't necessarily mean that I won't be or that it won't work. I actually have bigger issues than the proposed fork itself. My bigger issues are the centralization of leadership. And this is coming from someone who thinks a lot of Vitalik. I think he's great, but he's honest, and I've had every conversation I've had with him is great. But I question when one person's voice it outweighs anyone else so much. That bothers me, and I'm glad it's Vitalik. If there's going to be one person, I'm actually very happy it's him, but I'd rather it not be anyone, and I'd rather it be something where there's a group, or there were a group of core devs, or it was more than just Vitalik that kind of has that massive leadership. He's seen as Ethereum, right? And as much as I like him, and I do, and I think he's honest, I also think that Ethereum is better served without that one headpiece up there. That is what I'm more interested and concerned about than the fork itself, because honestly, I think with or without the fork, I think Ethereum is going to be okay. I don't necessarily think one's catastrophic, which it seems like every decision from the block size decision to everything else, everything is over dramatic. Like, this will be the death. Like, Mike Hearn quits. Bitcoin is a failed experiment. No, it's still working. Like, come on, let's not be so hyperbolic here. Not everything is doom. Bitcoin is dead. Ethereum is dead. Ethereum is dying. No, it's not dying. It's fine. It's speed bumps, and these are issues, and they're major issues. But I don't think either one is going to kill Ethereum. But what I do think is, it's a good time to start asking these questions. Okay, who is the decision making and for the governance of Ethereum? And right now, it sure seems like one person. That bothers me, and I don't have a great answer for it either. So it's easy to identify problems without proposing solutions. I'll admit that. So that's why I'm very 50-50 on it. Like, I don't think either are going to be catastrophic, but I get the point. Like, when the DAO fails and people don't get their funds back, what ends up happening is people lose faith in it. But on the other side, I think the way the DAO hacker has been paying people, I think, to vote, what? Like, it's surreal to me. It really is. It is like a movie, and it's like a movie that no one has ever even heard of. A script is crazy. And when, like, my girlfriend asks me questions about it, I have no idea where to begin, because I know she wants like a TLDR version, and I'm like, and this is a 20-minute conversation in the beginning, at least. And that level of complexity goes to any answer I'm going to give. Is I can't give a simple I'm against it or I'm for it. And it seems like everyone wants those positive answers. And the other is I'm not necessarily the right person. Now, if you have a question on how it was marketed, I thought the DAO did a very shitty job of marketing. I'm surprised they did as well as they did and how much they raised. That is where, in my opinion, where I consider it definitive, because I'm a marketing guy. Like, I saw their communications, their messaging. I thought that was very off. They did very well because of the strength of the idea. I'll call that out because that is something where I consider my opinion to be very valid, and my experience has been pretty good in this space. Now, for technical issues, I always like to say I have an opinion, but please don't. If anyone refers to me as any kind of authority on this, no, I'm just spouting my opinion because you asked for it. So I would say please do not. There are way smarter people here that will do that. Now, when it comes to messaging or promoting a project, that's where I would prefer to be quoted. So I hope that also doesn't dodge a question, but I would also say to anyone else is it also is a giant warning that no contract should have that much funds in it. You're a giant bullseye, right? And that's something that I'm very lucky that Augur was able to avoid because of our nature and just what we're doing. So I'm hoping that in the future we'll be able to avoid anything similar. And so far it's okay because we're still in beta. But yeah, so as far as how it affects Augur, the fork necessarily I don't think will hugely either way. But it will in trusting Ethereum, right? You need that trust in Ethereum, and if anyone's trust was shot, which I don't think it was, because the price dipped a little, but I don't view that as a massive issue.
Oh, sorry, I was just looking up domains. I was going to buy EthereumObituaries.com. But anyways, I like your comment on Vitalik and everything. Like he is a wonderful, I guess, call him leader in the space, but there seems to be a bit of a cult of personality forming, and that's very concerning, especially with like when we come through one of these very political sort of periods in like whether it's Bitcoin and the block size or if it's Ethereum and the hard fork. Their politics start developing, and it becomes way too human, and it needs to be more, I guess, numeric. Yeah, no, that's just kind of my random opinion. And then if anyone wants a quick explanation on the DAO or something to send to friends, I do a really hilarious thing on my channel here, a 13-minute video on explaining the DAO. I almost break a plate, so check it out. Next we have Jack. Yeah, Jack, you have a question? Maybe bring us back on topic of the Augur?
Yeah, I do have a question. I just want to follow up on the previous question that Tony was answering in terms of porting Augur to Bitcoin at some point in the future. I remember reading maybe a year ago or two, maybe even 2 years ago about that was something that was considered as a possibility sometime in the future, that there could be a Bitcoin version of Augur. And I'm just wondering with Rootstock coming out later this fall, what if Rootstock became a premier smart contract platform? Is there any possibility or is there plans of consideration to porting Augur to Bitcoin or Rootstock?
I would say right now there's no plans for sure. There's definitely not any plans. As far as consideration, that may happen down the road, but the fact that it's still a little ways away, I don't think that would be anything that would even be considered. A lot of things would need to happen, and a lot of time would need to pass before anything like that would be considered for Rootstock, which essentially would be Bitcoin. So yeah, I don't think that's something right now that has been talked about, mentioned, or anything else. Our biggest issue right now is making sure that our full project is out on Ethereum. That's really the goal right now. Well, if things change in a year or two, who knows? I don't know. Things happen, issues arise. Anything could happen, but right now, no. I don't even think there's been any. There may have been in like one of the dev Slack channels that I don't follow as closely. There may have been discussions, but I don't remember hearing or seeing anything on that. Which is one of the disadvantages of being a distributed team, is that you don't hear all the communication, right? Because before I was at Augur, I was actually at BitPay, so I was sitting there with, I was able to walk right over and talk to any of the developers, and I actually talked to them more than any of the marketing team usually. But I was able to get like the lowdown on what the discussions were and things that we're talking about. Whereas here, okay, I can peek into their Slack channel and see some of the communication, but a lot of the talk I don't get to hear, and I don't think there's been any talk as far as I know. I have not heard anything mentioned about that whatsoever. Other than maybe if someone asked in an interview saying, sure, maybe in a couple years if things happen, we would always consider it. But for now, I don't think that's anything that's really an active topic of discussion internally whatsoever.
Awesome. Oh, geez, I'm getting spaced out here, but. Do you have an official comment on what is it, the Gatecoin hack and the IOU market that was trading rep at the time?
We don't have much of an official comment on that, as that was done completely outside of Augur's awareness or knowledge. So you know, we made it a point not to endorse any, not to endorse or promote any exchange whatsoever. So I mean, it was neat to be able to see, okay, this is what the level of interest is in rep. That was about all that really we kind of thought of. It was an interesting idea, but I know next to nothing about the hack, other than it stopped Augur trading, so the Augur ticker didn't work as well. But the fact that the rep isn't officially on exchanges yet is something that we made a point to mention, and we haven't done any endorsement or anything of any exchange, and we never will. That's a completely different beast where you can any exchanges, and we've seen in the past with all the issues from going back to Gox and even before. Exchanges are tough. Are tough to run, tough to secure, and I think this is me personally speaking. I think what happened to Gatecoin, if it was just a simple hack, could really happen to any exchange. But we really don't have an official comment because we really didn't have much to do with it, other than an email or two that they sent us, which we basically said, we can't like endorse any exchange. It's just not something we can do. It wouldn't be good for us or for anyone that's bought reps, so we can't. That was basically it. Our only interaction that I've had with Gatecoin, at least. I don't think the team has had any others, so we really don't have a comment on that because it hasn't involved us much. Unfortunately, it kind of did because they were the place that you could get the IOU coins, which I thought was a cool idea, but I don't know. Past that, I don't have much say in that because they didn't consult us or anything. They just kind of did it. Which, hey, free market, right? If they have that account, there's no issues with that. But I always say with anything, including even us, let the buyer beware. Do your due diligence, research the project, make sure that the team's right, make sure that everything you're doing is right before you invest or spend any money. Excuse me.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into my final question here on right now. I see Joey doing a lot of facilitating OTC trades, and yeah, I guess could you comment on how he's kind of he's I guess changing the ICO ledger or whatever for doing these trades. So he could he be working on the platform more with his time, or is he going to keep doing the OTC trading?
Here's the thing with Joey is Joey was working mostly on the back end, and the back end is I wouldn't say 100% complete, but very close to. And it's the front end right now that actually is the majority of the work that's left, which is Jack and that team handling, which was also the part of the team that was brought on after the crowd sale, so they didn't have as early of a start. That's a big issue there. So we did get a comment like that. I think I saw someone on some forum say something about how, okay, Augur team is speaking. Well, for one, if I'm speaking, I'm not doing any development work, so really, I don't see why that's relevant. But Joey, for the most part, is done with a lot of it. So the reason that he's been, he went with Exponential Finance to me in New York. He's speaking in New York at the American Banker thing, and he's just got announced as the fellow for the Teal Fellowship. He's kind of been doing his own thing because there is stuff for him to do, but he was mostly in charge of the back end, so he's handling that, and it does give him some more free time in regards to promoting the project and doing other things and being more of a public face. And it's really Jack and the team and Tomas and Baz, and there's a lot of people that are working on it. We actually just hit 12 members of our team, which is pretty awesome. At different levels of involvement too. Some of us are part-time, some of us are full-time, some of us are volunteer even. But it really depends on what you're doing and what you're working toward. But I would say right now, majority of the work is on the front end. So, and that's really something Joey's not very much involved with, other than a passing interaction and saying, okay, I like this, I don't like this, we can do this. That's about it. So that's why for Joey.
Okay, cool. I don't know if there's any other quick questions from our panelists here, Jack or Theo or even BTC Vix.
No, I'm cool, thanks. we can wrap it up. Oh no, okay, I have. All right, I do. If I'm the Oracle and I make a mistake, how do I reverse it, or is it just done then? So, because I'm a human, right? And so, what if I put the score in? Like tomorrow is Portugal against Poland, and what if I reverse the score and then I, type it in, and then I guess I lose all my reputation, but the people that should have won money are going to be the wrong, so the wrong people are going to be paid. I guess I can't reverse that, right?
Let me answer that, and I'll say this: the exact timing of the event reporting system and everything is changing kind of as we go along, and it has changed a few times. So this could not be accurate if someone is reading this or watching this later. But as far as I know, there's still a two-part reporting process, right? So what happens is basically rep holders will privately submit the outcome results to the Augur network, and I believe that there's a month phase where this can happen. And again, don't quote me on this, but I believe it's editable. So let's say you put it in wrong and then you realize a day later it's wrong. As long as you're still within that period, I think you should be able to change it. I think. And with that said, 1 month later after that, and that's after all the reports are in, a second public report is submitted in plain text for everyone to see. So there is some time that's given there, and that should be able to kind of assume and help that out also. What also is something that we're all kind of hoping happens is that there's going to be services offered, and this obviously is scaling is required, but there's already ideas. Services will be available for a small fee where actually someone could essentially be your reporter, so they would report on your rep, so you wouldn't even have to do that, and it could maintain your the rep's value, and you wouldn't lose any. This is something that has changed. I think that the timing structure of 2 months is still pretty accurate. So as far as I know, that's exactly what's happening. But again, this could and will probably change some minor points. But we want to make sure that, you know, if there is an issue like that happens, that, you know, that it's reversible, because you're right, people are human, and there's got to be some room for human error. But then again, you know, once it's submitted to the blockchain permanently, it's, you know how blockchains work. Especially if it's a permissionless blockchain, it's on there for life. So, you know, as far as I know, that there's going to be a little wiggle room, but not a lot. So, but again, that can and may change. Let's tell everyone.
Well, glitch with audio there, but thanks for that answer. And once again, Theo, thanks for the question. Jack, do you have any final questions or comments before we wrap the show up here?
No, I don't have any final questions.
Okay. Well, no, this has been a great chat, and again, congratulations to Joey on the Fail Prize, I think it's called, that he won. Is that kind of going towards Augur development, or is you guys still, you know, sitting pretty on your $5 million?
We're doing fine as far as on the $5 million. So we're sitting fine on that. You know, a lot of it went to pay back debt, you know, startup stuff, the costs that were accrued before the crowd sale. So, you know, it's not $5 million yet. I think it's 3 point something. But we're doing fine with that. And the money actually goes directly to Joey. Essentially, the Thiel Fellowship, and he's the guy that was, I don't know how large of a story this was internationally, but here in the United States it was huge. Peter Thiel's the guy that was basically the guy that backed Hulk Hogan in his big lawsuit against Gawker. And as a wrestling fan, as someone who can't stand Gawker, I really like Peter Thiel. It's cool because he does this grant, and Vitalik won it in 2014, and Joey won it this year. And essentially, they get $100,000 to basically live off of while they can pursue whatever they want, Joey being Augur. So for him, it's basically saying, okay, here's money for Joey to live on, and, you know, basically do whatever so he can basically work on Augur as much as possible without having any financial issues for as long as the money can last. And you know, again, what I mentioned earlier was completely true. Joey is the smartest person I've ever met, and he's just sometimes I'm talking to him, and it's hard to believe he's like 20. I'm 31, and he's way more mature than I could ever hope to be. And I'm so happy for him. I've never been legitimately more happy for someone, because usually, you know, I'm the type that'll say, "Damn it, why couldn't I do that?" But with Joey, he works his ass off. He's brilliant, and he deserves it completely. And it's nice to see that, you know, someone that deserves it gets it, and it's great for us too, because it opens doors. It gives the entire Augur team access to things we didn't have before, including help with publicity, help with little things that you don't necessarily realize, from networking to, you know, getting doors open that you wouldn't have anyway. So this is not just helping Joey, this is helping Augur in general. So it's great for all of us. It's not just great for Joey, but without Joey it wouldn't have happened. So it really is it's great to have him on board. And I know since we're wrapping up, I think pretty soon, I wanted to thank you guys for the awesome questions. This is the probably the deepest, best questions I've been asked. I do apologize for the one or two that I couldn't give the most specific answers to, but I do want to say thanks, and I want to invite anyone to check out Augur, augur.net, and you can go to augur.net and check out the beta, which is also at app.augur.net, and follow us on Twitter. We're at Augur Project. Check us out on GitHub, GitHub/Augur Project, and check me out. I'm at Tony Swish. Should be right down there. And check out my website, tonysakich.com, if you have any interest. Since the crowd sale, I originally was brought on with Augur through the crowd sale, but they were pretty happy with what I did, so they kept me on, but in a reduced role, which was fine with me because the marketing dollars aren't as huge right now. They need to be spent until the full launch. And so I do take on other gigs and consulting stuff. So if anyone needs help, I have a pretty good track record on marketing stuff, and I will say I'm very proud of. And thanks to everyone who supports Augur. This is my #1 priority in the project I love, and I'm so proud to be working with the people that I work with. And I love the good questions and the interest, and I hope everyone checks it out, even if it's not your bag, to see what we're doing.
Yeah, thanks again for coming, and yeah, this has been a great chat. Again, speaking on Joey, he was a phenomenal person. I had him on when the crowd sale was just wrapping up, and I definitely got the same impression of someone who was very wise for his time. And yeah, I even introduced you guys as the hottest app around, and even after this whole DAO thing happened, you guys are definitely still the hottest DAO or DApp that everyone's kind of watching and waiting for. So we're all super excited. I hope I speak for everyone on the panel right now. And yeah, this has been a great chat. We have a little tradition here on the show that we always wrap up with Bitcoin price predictions, and we would do it on Ethereum or Augur Rep or something, but we don't want you to be convicted of insider trading. So let's pull up the chart here, and then we'll kind of go around and get final comments and what we think Bitcoin is going to be in 1 week's time. So I guess we'll start with one of the quieter guys in the panel here, but who probably has the best knowledge on this subject, BTC VIX. Still there? The strong silent type. Next we'll move down to Theo. Theo, I'm going to maybe make you go first. Unfortunately, no one wants that on Price is Right.
Okay, so in 1 week, in 1 week's time? Yeah, 1 week we said, right? Okay, so 1 week Bitcoin price will be, I don't know, let's see, 772.35.
Okay. Normally we don't go into pennies, but I feel like this show might come down to that. We're seem like a very predictive and knowledgeable bunch here. Next we have Jack. Jack, what do you think the price is going to be in 1 week's time? Paging Jack. You're on mute, bud. Oh, we might have to forego Jack for the moment, and let's go down to. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with 690.
Ooh, it's a bear. 690. Well, I mean, bear by bullish standards. All right, Tony, what do you think, bud?
Sorry, I was muted. I'm going to go with $636.
636?
Yeah, I think it's not going to change much. Just my perspective.
All right. Yeah, and I'm kind of feeling a little more bear. I might undercut you and say 600. Sorry, Bitcoiners. There's just too much other good stuff going around. But the halving is pretty cool, and maybe with all the media stories we've seen, we might see some price action. But anyways, unless Vix is going to jump in here at the end, yeah, this has been a great show. Thanks to all of our panelists and Tony for coming. Yeah, Jack and Theo, you guys have been great. Vix, this is an awesome chat, and I'm really happy to have you on. And yeah, I look forward to working with you again in the future, Tony. Maybe we'll speak with your legal team next. You're muted.
Yes, I am. Sorry. Yes, absolutely. I'll see what kind of response I can get. That might take a minute, but I'll see what I can do.
All right, cool. Yeah, then we'll end the broadcast here. So everyone at home, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next 1,000 blocks.